very happy Independence Day or an Independence Week to all the students, the viewers, the well-wishers of Disha Bharat. In this entire series of book introductions, Pramod ji allotted a book to me which said 6 Glorious Epochs of Indian History, authored by none other than Veer Savarkar himself. What fascinates me about the book, but before I even enter into that, Indian history, as it has been taught in the formal, structured, present-day education system, concentrates on certain events, is influenced by certain narratives because they are mostly viewed from the lens of the West. As a desperation or as a counter narrative, there is another faction which is constantly, trying to fit everything in the casket into their raison d'etre, and also, for that matter, look for certain external validation or the West validation. This book does neither. In fact, I am confused whether I should be using the word book, though it comes in the book introduction. It is more or less a voluminous essay of thousands of paragraphs, where one chapter takes you to the next, and the paragraphs are also continuously numbered. It's a 644-page book and has, like I said, thousands of paragraphs. But in this book, Veer Savarkar neither is looking at history from the lens of the West, nor is he trying to validate or justify things. It is absolutely bold enough to agree to the mistakes that have been committed in history, to the facts that have happened in history, firmly look into and assert the achievements and acknowledge certain happenings, while also agreeing to disagree with many of the events or the interpretations that have been given to history. Now, although I would be, I really would want to read out a couple of paragraphs from the book. But even before I do that, the author basically acknowledges that the Indian civilization is absolutely rich with many anecdotes, folklores, and various aspects that have emerged from the society itself. He also accepts that there is a tendency in the Indian society towards deification of certain national heroes, towards deification of national heroes. Suddenly we raise them to the level of God. He speaks about Puranas, he acknowledges Puranas, and he says that modern historians probably consider a part of it, and then they don't really accept the Puranas as such. That's mythology. He quotes, with respect to Puranas, he says, our Puranas, however, are not history, pure and unadulterated. So he's very clear about the fact. He says Puranas are important. They are important because they literally help imbibe in the society certain qualities and certain thought processes. But they are not history. It's mythology. It's a set of stories. So he goes by the history and he says many events have taken place in the Indian history. It's a vast, numerous number of years of different activity that has taken place. But for him, the most 6 glorious epochs would refer to those points in history where Kshatra in the society, the warlike nature of the society, the warring nature of the youth has arisen, has awakened. that for him matters. He says that to him, the word glorious is to refer warlike situation where our brave leaders have left us onto a war of liberation in order to free our nation from the shackles of domination. These are, his idea about the 6 epochs. When he selects the time periods in history, this is the should I say, the criteria for him to qualify that to be glorious. His first epoch is with respect to the retreat of Alexander, with rather the advent of Alexander and the political birth of Chandragupta under obviously the aegis of Chanakya, Kautilya. And his second epoch begins with the reign of Chandragupta and the decline of Buddhism. In between, he wonders as to where that Kshatra, which was a part of the Vedic rituals, about the Vedic traditions, was lost. He reminds us in this part, he reminds us about the Yaudheyas. The Yaudheyas were also called as Ayudha Jivis. That was a society that was where all people, irrespective of their age, caste, gender, creed, language, anything, they were all carrying with them arms, weapons, because that was the kshatra that they had, the strength, the power that they used to exhibit. At this point, I must urge the viewers that understanding the Yaudheyas, of course, Glorious Epochs is a great book, but apart from that, there is also another book in Kannada by Rahula Sankrityayana, which is called Jaya Yaudheya, where the entire all the details with respect to Pushyamitra from the Yaudheyas, that aspect is covered very beautifully. So is true in the 6 glorious epochs, and that part takes the second epoch. Now, I am very tempted to read one paragraph of the second epoch, part of the second epoch. He says, although several states in South India at that time belonged to our own people, they were independent in their own way and free from any foreign domination. It was, however, necessary that they should have merged their separate existence into the North Indian Empire if the whole of India was to be one indivisible nation with a central authority to guide its destiny, and to do so was their duty. Look at the choice of words that he makes and the clarity that he has with respect to the Union of India, and then compare it with the recent debates that keep happening on and off whenever, the southern states suddenly wake up and say, no, we are a different country, we want to be that, we want to be this. So, this is the thought process, or should I say, a cultural stream of thought that Savarkar had. Moving on to the third epoch that comes. Now, the third epoch, he deals with the menace that is caused by the Shakas and the Kushanas. The hero of this epoch is, of course, Vikramaditya. Now, this is the same Vikramaditya who has a Samvatsara by his name, Vikrama Samvatsara that we say. The same Vikramaditya is being referred to here. It also deals with the cultural assimilation that took place and how the cultural assimilation by the Shakas with respect to the Vedic rituals took place. This is something that not many books of history deals with. Again, one paragraph that I would want to read from this part of the book. And I quote, "The propriety of recounting this whole incident here is to show clearly that this sudden eruption of the Shaka Kushanas throughout Asia did not convolute India alone. It discomfited even the then strongly built and well organized empire like China too for a time on the battlefield. But just as it is tomfoolery, born out of jealousy, to say that the Chinese nation had been weak throughout all these years and had never been better fitted for anything else than to be rotting in slavery simply because they suffered temporary defeats against the Shaka, Kushanas or at some such other times, it is equally foolish and jealously blind to say, as some of our enemies do, that the Indian national life was a series of defeats. It only shows that they cannot read history properly. This literally shows the honesty of the person. On one hand, you go on and say, no, the Chinese were not defeated. They had very minuscule number of wars. And on the other hand, you're trying to say, no, we had many number of wars and therefore we were defeated. Both of it is wrong. The Chinese have also faced enough wars. The Chinese have also seen enough cultural appropriation, and the Chinese have also seen enough amount of onslaught on their culture, because Indian and Chinese culture are, should I say, indigenous to their own lands, and also they have seen the Western onslaughts. So he compares them and he gives you a very objective idea about this. That shows the honesty of the author. The fourth glorious epoch that he deals with is dedicated to Yashodharma. The author here critically analyzes the period after Dhanananda. He also refreshes the memory of Skandagupta's bravery. He is criticizing the modern historians who project that the entire nation was under foreign aggression and foreign slavery. But what he truly understands is that at no point of time was the entire India under foreign slavery. They were able to conquer only 1/4 of the country. So 3/4 of the country has always remained free. These are the words, although I am not going to read the paragraphs of this because I think we are having a huge video by now. The fifth glorious epoch that is attributed, and I must say that the fifth epoch is holds the largest space in the book. It basically deals with the valor of Vijayanagara, the might of the Marathas, the saga of the Sikhs, and also the rigor of the Rajputs. He's covered all of these aspects, and as to how there was Mughal invaders who brought with them Islam, who brought with them the philosophy of Muslim, and how the Indian philosophy, how they were not able to take in the Indian philosophy, and what was the relationship between the Muslims and the Indian philosophy, what happened to the definitions of our virtues, how it changed, and how the very thought process of the society came to be compromised because of these onslaughts. He speaks about that. And the sixth epoch, he speaks about the freedom of India, that the freedom India got from the Britishers, from the British Dominion for that matter. This part is mostly, and he says that this part, I have written a lot of things already elsewhere, and this part is mostly certain letter exchanges that have happened between Savarkar and others, mostly his brother actually, But at one part of, in one section he very clearly says that I have huge respects for the martyrs, but martyrdom can never be the only goal with respect to a country, with respect to a Rashtra, for the Nirmana of Bharata. He says it is equally important to be alive and to work for the country as it is important to die for the country when need be. But dying itself should not be the goal. That's the clarity that he has, with respect to his ideas. There is one paragraph, one chapter where he says facts without comments. That's how gracefully he disagrees on certain things, although he's made every effort to remain objective in that chapter without putting in any of his readings or any of his comments in the chapter. When we read between lines, the anguish, the anger of Savarkar, his choice of words specifically with that particular chapter makes it very obvious. I must say that it is a book, it is a voluminous essay that each one of us should read. And yes, another thing before I close the book introduction, this last part with respect to the freedom movement, where he writes, where there's letter exchanges, can be better understood if we also read the 2 volumes written on Savarkar by Vikram Sampath. So I would suggest that the pre-read for, or rather the post-read after the second epoch would be Rahula Sankratyana's book, and the pre-read before the 6th epoch could be the 2 volumes by Vikram Sampath on the author himself, V.D. Savarkar. With a hope, with a fond hope that this video will enkindle many of your curiosity towards what really is in the book. He also deals with the 7 fetters that the Hindu community has put on itself, and very beautifully describes it. He is not justifying the wrongs. He is not advocating unnecessary Hindutva. He is absolutely clear about what is the boundary of Hindutva and what is the expanse or the potential expanse of Hindutva. With this, I wish you all again a very, very happy Independence Day, a very, very happy independent thoughts through the entire year until the next Independence Day. Once again, the book that we are reading is 6 Glorious Epochs of Indian History. Hope it will help us and guide us through.